We're back with a reported look at the prosecutor who has done what no one else in American history has done, charged a former president with a federal crime. Special counsel Jack Smith both caused and then personally oversaw Trump's arraignment this week. He was there, pointedly staring at Trump throughout the process, one reporter noted. Smith closely watching Trump as he exited slowly, and he never, quote, broke his stare at Trump, a showdown that the former president did not join. He avoided ever making eye contact with this quiet public servant who has upended Donald Trump's life and his run for president and possibly his own liberty. Jack Smith, for his part, spent his entire first 6 months on this job in a kind of public silence. No speeches, no grandstanding, few signs of any leaks from him or his probe. And that is a contrast to some prosecutors. Ken Starr famously was more vocal and leaky in the office. It's a total contrast to congressional probes overseen by both parties. Those are often aimed at public consumption and at policymaking. Jack Smith didn't do it that way. He continued with what colleagues say is a long-standing approach: discipline facts and let the work do the talking. In our special report tonight, we're going to show you some of the rare times that Smith has spoken. As for this job in this era, his first remarks were brief and came once when he unsealed this indictment.
Today, an indictment was unsealed, charging Donald J. Trump with felony violations of our national security laws, conspiracy to obstruct justice. To understand the scope and the gravity of the crimes charged, our laws that protect national defense information are critical. They must be enforced. Violations of those laws put our country at risk. Adherence to the rule of law is a bedrock principle. We have one set of laws in this country, and they apply to everyone.
And that was about it. Smith was concise. He spoke for only 2 minutes in total. Think about the many hours or days of coverage of what he did and said, but for his part, it was only 2 minutes. He unsealed the indictment 7 months after becoming special counsel and vowed to seek a speedy trial.
My office will seek a speedy trial in this matter, consistent with the public interest and the rights of the accused.
That is his speedy approach. Colleagues say that's how he's always been, that he doesn't like to sit there playing with his food. Now, Attorney General Garland chose Smith and, in choosing him, tapped a prosecutor with experience in pursuing powerful figures before this case. Smith ran the DOJ's Department on Public Integrity, that was over 10 years ago, and had high-profile defendants like Bob McDonnell, a Republican, and John Edwards, a Democrat. In 2018, Smith took on a very special role prosecuting war crimes at The Hague. That job gave Smith unique experience, which he brought to this Trump case. Indeed, he's one of the few prosecutors alive who's indicted a sitting head of state. 10 charges there, a 10-count indictment against the then-sitting president of Kosovo in 2020.
Now his past has caught up with him.
President of Kosovo, Hashim Thaçi, is in The Hague for an interview with prosecutors who have indicted him on war crimes charges.
He's been charged with 10 counts of war crimes and crimes against humanity.
And that president-turned-defendant tried to attack the prosecutors, the war crime system itself, so put all of that on trial. It's a kind of witch hunt tactic familiar to many, but it's also something that Smith faced down and defeated at the time, insisting the truth would come out and he would be unrelenting.
The truth, as will be laid before this court in the coming weeks, my office will be unrelenting and unstopping. Fair administration of justice requires building institutions that can protect those who seek justice.
Smith told that same court the accused had repeated efforts to obstruct and undermine the prosecution. And, you know, we hear a lot about obstruction because it's pretty common in the criminal mindset. Cover up the crime, try to stop investigators before they get even close. The evidence of that can be a strong tool, though, for prosecutors who use it not only to indict on that crime, but invoke it, as Smith did there in that case and as he is doing now, as damning evidence for the jury to see at trial. It is the Jack Smith indictment that charges Donald Trump for specifically conspiracy to obstruct justice. And he used the speaking indictment to argue that obstruction shows Trump knew he was breaking the law. He knew he had the classified documents, That's why he hid them. Now, by contrast, if there's a genuine mistake or a misunderstanding, the argument would be that the accused wouldn't have taken such extreme measures to hide what he did. Now, Smith's discipline extends beyond the office. In his spare time, he's run over 9 Ironman triathlons. The story goes that he got hit by a truck while riding his bike, fracturing his pelvis, but was back doing a triathlon 10 weeks later, as the New York Times reports. The story suggests that Smith has resilience. Legally, it is Donald Trump who has been hit by a truck. Federal indictments lead to convictions most of the time. Indicted candidates are rarely elected again, although it has happened. So when we look at this case in the context of Smith's history and approach and the context of the saga of Donald Trump's life and career and alleged abuses, what we will see here will be a showdown of 2 people who are, I think, relentless in their own way. And both have lots of legal experience. For Smith, it's being a seasoned prosecutor going after bad guys. For Trump, it's been as a defendant, mostly a civil defendant, but now recently a criminal defendant who quite clearly has gotten away a few times before. Now, we are told the law is supposed to be fair, uniform, and above any person. That's why we hear so many references to no person being above the law, right? We know the phrase. But this is still a human society, and the law will still, of course, be carried out by humans, even trying to use these fair standards. And this historic case is, in its essence and in its differences from cases that have not ever busted Donald Trump before, it is a product of the human decisions Jack Smith made. Its outcome will turn on what people do, the judge and jury. And in that sense, it is interesting in this Trump era to note, as we reflect on Jack Smith's work, that this particular instance, threat, case, it is now out of the hands of defendant Donald Trump, which is as it is supposed to be.